Hello, and congratulations to you, whoever you are. You are the winner of our access here to the Trading Success webinar, which will be conducted by myself today. I am David Hannigan, the Chief Dealer here at TIOmarkets. So congratulations on winning the prize. I hope over the next 15 or 20 minutes to be able to give you some useful information to be able to help you with your trading going forward, and regardless of whether you are a veteran trader or if you are a new trader. I hope you will find this informative and help you with greater success with your trading. So again, my heartiest congratulations to you, and I wish you the very best of luck with your trading going forward. So what I wanted to do today really was I wanted to, as I said, go through a number of points that I think you will find useful and interesting to define different aspects of trading as you go through your trading life, if you like. And again, regardless of whether you are an experienced trader or a newbie, hopefully you'll find this useful. What I wanted to really do to start with is just look very briefly at 3 or 4 very well-known traders, no matter where you are in the world. I'm sure you'll have heard of them. And just look at how they have approached their trading over time and what has made them successful. And then we want to focus on you. We want to focus on getting you successful. We want you to figure out as a trader. We want you to define your style. We want you to define the time horizons for your trade, whether you're going to be a macro trader or a technical trader, looking at charts, ignoring charts, whether you're going to have short-term, long-term positions, and also understanding your chosen market as well. Very, very important. Obviously, when you place a trade, you want to make absolutely sure you understand why you have that trade on. And before that, probably even more important, we want you to recognize your own risk tolerance. How much capital you can afford to invest. What levels of P&L volatility that you're comfortable with. Remember, one size does not fit all. What works for you may not work for me, and vice versa. So I want you to really understand that, because it's very important as well. We want you to have independence of thought. We're going to look at planning your trade and then being disciplined and trading that plan going forward. Again, don't rely on others. Do it yourself. It's put it in writing, write things down, and figure out exactly what you want to do. Trading discipline, risk reward, probably the number one biggest problem that retail traders have is discipline around trading and risk reward ratios. And it is the one thing that will provide you with success going forward over anything else, is having good trading discipline and having the correct risk reward ratio. So we'll go into that. And then finally, really understanding the mentality of trading. We go through everything we've just looked at here, but mentality of trading is also very important as well. And it's going to go through a few things, the do's and don'ts, if you like, of the mental side of trading, and then we'll wrap things up. So again, first of all, thank you for joining us, and congratulations on winning this prize. Well, to start here, we're looking at 3 or 4 of the most successful traders that I can think of during my career. I've been trading for over 30 years now, predominantly in currencies, but with some experience in commodities and also in equity indices as well. And I've named 4 traders here. George Soros is the first, and he's probably near and dear to my heart, because out of those 4, Mr. Soros is probably the predominant currency trader, if you like, which is mainly my background. And one of my first experiences in the currency markets, in the early 1990s, was Mr. Soros's fund. Essentially took on the British government, the Bank of England, the UK Treasury, in devaluing the pound. Now, I'm from the UK, so I experienced that firsthand, and it was a great lesson in somebody spotting an anomaly, spotting something which he thought, given the economic fundamentals of the UK, the pound was grossly overvalued, and part of that overvaluation was due to the fact it was within the European exchange rate mechanism at the time, and it was somewhat falsely elevated in its value because of the um, metrics of that particular mechanism. And Mr. Soros wanted to exploit that, and he did so very successfully. And eventually, he beat the UK government. He beat the Treasury. He beat the Bank of England, even though interest rates were ramped up to 15% at the time. From, I don't know where they started off, probably 6 or 7%. He knew he could knock the pound out of the exchange rate mechanism and essentially devalue it, and he did, and that was based on economic fundamentals. Now, the amounts involved back then compared with what it would probably take today to do something similar, probably very different. But he'd done his work, and he was very successful. And over the years, he proved time and time again that his approach to trading currencies was a very successful one. Warren Buffett, obviously, we know the Sage of Omaha. Mr. Buffett is not a currency man; he's really an equities man. His fund, Berkshire Hathaway, has been extraordinarily successful over a very large number of years. Has matched or beaten the S&P, and we know that his style of trading is very much invest in things that you quote unquote like. Things that to him make sense, that he feels comfortable with. Now, he's had a few failures along the way, and it's important to recognize that too, because we're all going to have failures in our trading. No one's going to make 100% of the time, but predominantly he's had a lot of very good long-term holds, which has yielded him a great return over time, and has been extremely successful, taking that approach. I know using the word things I like probably sounds a bit wishy-washy, but that was kind of his thing. Tudor Jones runs the hedge fund by his own name, and Ray Dalio is the principal of Bridgewater Associates, who another very large hedge fund in the US, and they are what I would describe as macro traders. So certainly from a currency standpoint, they will look at global anomalies, if you like, between two countries and represent that through particular currency trades. And they also, do similar ideas in terms of investing in equities and equity indices as well. But they take a very much a big picture view, and have been very, very successful with doing that. The one thing which all four of these gentlemen have in common, beyond being successful, is they have a huge team of people behind them doing an awful lot of research, a lot of macro research, a lot of quantitative research, some very bright and some very smart minds, that allow them to put on these big trades and allow them to manage these big trades, taking into account things such as liquidity, volatility, slippage on execution, etc., etc. That's something that you and I don't have. But the common denominator there is they all plan their trades very carefully, do a lot of research on it before they ever click a button and just put a trade on for the hell of it. So, they over time, and all of these gentlemen have a long track record, a long history of being successful. So, it's important to find what works for you. Don't go copying other people. Work out, what you are. And moving on with that, I want to, touch base on defining what works for you. What's your style of trading? What's your time horizon that you feel comfortable with? Are you going to be a macro trader? Are you going to look at different economic fundamentals around the world? Are you going to be a technical trader where you kind of ignore the macro side of things and you look at charts? And I've worked with some great traders over the years that have only worked off charts. They've been very disciplined to their charts, but they have stuck rigidly to working off charts and picking out levels of resistance and support and different trend lines and different waves and looking at different indicators and oscillators in order to place trades. Now, I'm not going to give you a lesson on technical trading today, but if that is something that either interests you or something which you have some exposure to in the past and you decide that's the way you want to trade, great. It's up to you. It's what makes you feel comfortable. Don't try to be all things. If you're not an economics guy and looking at different macroeconomic themes doesn't make a whole lot of sense to you, but looking at charts does. Don't try to be something you're not. Stick to the charts. Conversely to that, if looking at charts to you doesn't make a whole lot of sense either, and you don't really understand what different indicators and oscillators are showing, but you kind of get the whole macroeconomic theme, then maybe that's the way for you to go. And also understand whether you're looking at a short-term trade or a long-term trade. Now, if you're a macro trader, you're probably not running too many short-term trades because you're never going to get the opportunity for that macro theme to really be reflected in the short term. But technical trades certainly can do. But again, make sure you're looking at the right information. If you're going to run a trade for 10 minutes, don't go looking at a 1-year chart. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Make sure you're looking at the appropriate chart for the trade which you wish to put on, because that's where you're getting your information from, and it's ultimately where you're going to choose your levels to get in and out of a trade. So please make sure what you're looking at is relevant to the trade you're putting on. And finally, I would say just understand your chosen market. It's important when people put trades on that they kind of understand why they've put that trade on. It may sound very obvious to go and do that, and maybe in equities and indices it's probably more obvious. But sometimes I see people put currency trades on, certainly some crosses and stuff, and I kind of look at it and think to myself, why have you put that on? I've been trading currencies for 30 years. I've never put a trade on in sterling Swedish in my life. Why do you have a position in sterling Swedish? I'm not saying it's wrong, but just understand why you have that position on. That was one thing. The first boss I ever had in foreign exchange when I worked in London said to me, he said, I want you to have two things. I want you to have. I want you to have a view on something, because if you don't, you have no use to me. And second, I want you to justify that view, because again, if you can't do that, then you're of no use to me. And I think that holds true. Make sure you understand what you're trading. Taking a step back even from understanding what we're trading and defining, what we're going to trade, etc. Before we even do that, we should really recognize, what our own risk tolerances are, how much capital we can afford to invest into a trade or into a portfolio, and understanding the volatility in profit and loss that you can personally withstand. That number is going to be very different for everyone. It's, I would encourage you, do not be influenced by other people. You work out what you can afford. You work out what your risk tolerance is. What you can afford might be very different to what I can afford. Investing $1,000 for you might have a very different impact on your life than me investing $1,000 and vice versa. So please understand yourself what you're willing to risk. This is a leveraged product, and a leveraged product means you can certainly make money a lot quicker, but you can also lose money a lot quicker. Okay, there's two sides to it. So just be cognizant of that and understand, what you're willing to invest. Please also be mindful about where you're getting those funds from. Be realistic. If you're taking that money from, some investing funds that you've had elsewhere, and you're moving over to TIOmarkets, then all well and good. If you're taking 20% out of your retirement funds to go and speculate on currency trading, maybe that's not the wisest choice. So please be very mindful of that. And again, don't get influenced by others. If you feel comfortable, it's probably the right decision. If you feel uncomfortable, it's probably the wrong decision. So please be mindful of that. Independence of thought. Independence of thought really here, every aspect of trading, you should be independent. But again, independence of thought, plan your trade, trade your plan. That's always been my motto. Do what I pointed out earlier, that the big four names I brought up at the beginning, do on a regular basis. Soros, Buffett, Tudor Jones, Dalio, they have hordes of analysts and research analysts behind them planning their trades. You and I don't have that, but we can certainly do our research into planning our trades, why we want to put a trade on, think about where we want to get into a trade, think about where we want to get out of a trade. Very, very important, and obviously understanding why we're going to put that trade on. So take time to do that. It will save you a lot of pain going forward and a lot of frustration as well. Trading discipline, risk reward, probably the most important aspect of trading is the discipline and risk reward ratios. It is one thing where the professional trader will always have an advantage, it seems, over retail traders, because they have the discipline and they have the experience in being able to work with within numbers that make sense. Too many times you see retail traders rushing to take a 10-point profit, but the move will go 100 points against them. They still have the trade. Retail traders don't like leaving stop losses. And why don't they like leaving stop losses? The answer I normally get is, well, if I leave a stop loss, I'll get stopped out. If you get stopped out, you were probably not supposed to be in the trade anymore. So, have in your mind where you want to get into a trade, where you want to get out of a trade, and stick to your risk reward ratios. Now, that will differ for people, I'm sure, but at a bare minimum, you should never, ever, ever risk more on a losing trade than you're prepared to make on a winning trade, right? So, to me, the best, you should always, personally, I have a 3-to-1 risk reward ratio. Okay, so if I'm willing to lose 20 points, I'm looking to make 60 points. And what that does for you, just looking at some basic probability, if I sat here and didn't do any research whatsoever and I just flipped a coin and we're going to say something goes up or something goes down, you would expect me to be right 50% of the time and wrong 50% of the time, right? Going to go up and going to go down. What we look to do when we put disciplines in place and we put risk reward ratios in place is to try and skew that a little bit. Okay, so the odds become a little bit more favorable over time. Okay, so if you think to yourself, if you use the example I had, and let's say, I'm willing to risk 20 points to make 60, you could be wrong 3 times and right 1 time, and you'll still be flat, right? Because you lost 3 times and lost 20 points each time, but the 1 time you were right, you made 60 and you're flat. So if you equate that over time, you're going to give yourself a much better chance of making money if you think you're going to be, the probability is around about 50-50. If you, take your losses off the book far quicker than you will your winners, it's going to give you a great advantage going forward. It's going to give you a lot more opportunity to make money. But you've got to be disciplined. And I'll tell you now, the hardest thing in trading is taking a loss, and that doesn't matter whether that's you or that's me or any of the fund managers we mentioned at the beginning. The hardest thing is putting your hand up and saying I'm wrong and taking a loss. But it is also the most important thing as well. So having that trading discipline and having that risk reward ratio in place is really important. Finally, you understand the mentality of trading. The mentality of trading, trading can provoke a lot of emotions. When we're right, it brings, a great euphoria, real joy to what we're doing, and we love it. When we're wrong, it feels terrible. We don't want to lose money. We don't like losing money. None of us like losing money. You're no different to me. I'm no different to Messrs. Soros and Buffett and Tudor Jones and Dahlia. That none of us want to lose money. We're not here to lose money, and we all end up feeling the same. So it's important that we don't let the psychology of trading get to us too much. We are going to have days when we lose. We're going to have trades that lose, probably quite a lot of them. It's just, it's a fact of trading. It's just the way things go. But we don't want to let it affect us adversely in our overall trading style. So, if you're having a bad day, stop, switch off. Don't ever trade angry. If you trade angry, it's a great way of blowing up your account real quickly. So do not do it. Switch off, leave the room you're in, go for a walk, go do something else, come back tomorrow. Right? You can always switch the machine back on tomorrow and start again. But don't ever trade angry. It will do you no good. Much like driving a car, don't ever trade impaired. Okay, we need to make good decisions when we're trading. If you are under the influence of alcohol or anything else which you shouldn't be under the influence of, it is probably not going to do you any good. I know I'm probably stating the obvious to most people, but seriously, don't. It's just, again, you're going to make poor decisions. Um, don't let your trading, if it's not your primary source of income, it's something you're doing on the side, for some additional investment, for some additional returns, um, something which is it's not your main focus in life. Um, don't let it overcome your day. Don't let it become your only focus. Some people get a little bit obsessed with trading and stop thinking about other things in life, and just want to focus on they lost money, just making money back, etc. Don't let it overrun your day. Focus on things that are important to you as well. um, I've seen people become a little obsessed with it, so just be careful of that. That doesn't help you either. So really, just to conclude, stick to what works. um, I've something I've always preached to traders I've managed, and traders that have managed me over the years, is keep doing what works and stop doing what doesn't. Sounds easy, but make a note of trades when you put them on. Keep a log, um, and figure out what is working for you. The trades that have made you money, why did they make you money? The trades that didn't make you money, why didn't they make you money? And stick to the good habits and get rid of the bad habits. Be disciplined in your trading. Stick to that risk reward ratio, one that is going to benefit you over time. Don't risk what you can't afford. Understand what you're putting on, what trades you're putting on, and why you're putting them on. Whether you're putting them on for 10 minutes, 10 hours, 10 days, 10 months, doesn't matter. Understand it and, think for yourself. And that's my final thought is, this is your money. It's your trading. Think very clearly and carefully. Don't get sucked into doing things because you hear other people doing them, or if you're some of these chat groups, etc. You see people boasting about how much money they're making, or trades they put on, or this wonderful trading style they saw on YouTube or whatever it might be. Think for yourself. You figure out what works for you. Because at the end of the day, you lose money. You can't really go back and blame anyone other than yourself. It's really down to you. So with that, I wish you the very, very best of luck in your trading. I hope what a couple of the thoughts and ideas I put forward to you today have been useful, and hopefully you will have a very successful trading career going forward. And on behalf of TIOmarkets, thank you for trading with us, and we look forward to speaking with you soon. Cheers.